Welcome to NEK-VT Rocks, and my guests today came all the way across the street from NEKCA, Northeast Kingdom Community Action. And you are?
James Bussiere.
And I am Valarie Viveros Venuto.
That's a long name.
It is, it is.
I'm so glad that you're here, and it's really exciting now that NEKCA's right across the street, because you were all the way down Main Street.
Yeah.
But having you so locally means that we can probably do a lot more with you very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an exciting prospect.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So what got my attention today, or for today, was that you've been posting some really interesting flyers about what NEKCA's doing now.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Well, the flyer was posted because obviously we're in our new location.
Yeah.
We're in our new location, and we want people to know where we are and what we're doing in that building. Mm-hmm. And so the flyers that were put out were asking for volunteers. We feel that it's really, really important to reparative justice mm-hmm. to have community members in our mm-hmm. reparative circles. So that was an invite. The flyer was an invite to community members mm-hmm. to please come in and volunteer. Yeah.
Well, it clearly reached me as an invitation, mm-hmm. which
Great.
Is how this is happening.
Yeah.
The system doesn't work. What we're doing doesn't work without volunteers, without community members coming in mm-hmm. and showing up for our members, for our participants.
Yeah. So what are some of the new programs that you're offering? I mean, NEKCA did a whole host of things in the past and did them well. And then COVID hit and everything sort of shut down. And it's been hard for everybody, including NEKCA, to sort of gradually crawl out of the pit and get stuff up and going again. Mm. So what exactly are you offering now at your fancy new location? I love that house, by the way. It's gorgeous.
It's a nice office.
Yeah.
It fits our needs perfectly.
Yeah.
My role is re-entry and COSA coordinator. So I'm focused more on the people coming out of incarceration mm-hmm. and getting them back into society and being productive. And what that looks like specifically on the navigation side is I do referrals and I relay information to partners that like Higher Ability Vermont, getting jobs and maybe mm-hmm.
the
doctor's stuff, and because that's a huge aspect that is being left behind. And on the COSA side, which is Circles of Support and Accountability, mm-hmm. I focus with the core member, which is the person coming out of mm-hmm. the prison system, and volunteers. We usually have like 3 or 4 volunteers.
Right.
The more the better, in my opinion. And we do just that. We hold them accountable to what they're coming out and and doing, but also supporting, because a lot of these people that do come out of the prison system don't have that at all.
I mean, I think one of the background pieces that's sort of important here is Newport was persuaded to participate in building an institution for mm-hmm. incarceration here. They agreed to do that, thinking that there would be benefits attached to that, including helping people. But what they found was, oh, big surprise, there were no benefits, that people were locked up there. Their families very often had to come to Newport because there was nowhere else. They'd lost all of their other supports. And then when they were discharged, released from prison, they came out with no skills, no help, no nothing, basically. Yep. And it was, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something to pay attention to in the future when mm-hmm. An offer that's too good to believe happens.
And it's the whole premise is keeping them out of prison.
Right.
Stopping this recidivism rate.
Right. But if we don't have resources to create that,
Yeah. How are we going to do it? Yeah.
Right. So it's really great that
mm-hmm.
NEKCA is now really involved in that, because we lost our restorative justice program.
Yeah, and so NEKCA kind of absorbed that, and I was lucky.
You were the
enough
lucky
to
person.
Yeah,
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it there for how long now?
A couple months, yeah. but it's, everything takes so long
I know.
with the justice system, so you need to get all these certifications done
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
That's great. And which part of the programs are you organizing / running?
I am coordinating the reparative panels. So he is really working with people that have been involved with the justice system and coming out of incarceration. And I'm working with people that might have had an interaction with the justice system, but they're not necessarily going to prison.
Right.
So these are people who have other offenses, and we get a referral from someone who might be on probation, parole, or directly from the court system.
Right.
And instead of possibly paying a fine, we do a much more deep dive into what caused the crime, and we meet with the victims and the offenders, and very importantly, the community members, to make and set and achieve goals, so that these things don't happen again. And it really helps the healing process for the people within Newport.
Yes.
The people that have these encounters need healing, and we're a safe space where all of those individuals can get together and try to repair the harm that has been done.
Do you have enough people on your panels?
We have some very dedicated volunteers that have been doing this for a long time.
A long time.
Yes.
very long, yep.
But we do need more volunteers.
Yes.
This program doesn't work without the aspect of the community members.
Right.
And to have as many backgrounds from Newport as we possibly can, meeting in these circles, on these panels, to give their input is really important.
What kind of time commitment is it for a volunteer?
Yeah, that's the great thing about this program, is that you can volunteer as much or as little as you want to. We have volunteers that volunteer multiple hours a week, and we have volunteers that might give 1 hour of their time a month. Many of the individuals that are volunteering now are retired and have the time to do so. We have teachers and people that are very community minded. It's our goal to have people from different backgrounds and different perspectives meeting together to give their side of the story.
Yeah, because it is a multifaceted story.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes it's just a sort of synchronicity of stupidity, and other times there's more to it than that. But it's locking somebody up is not a solution. And any opportunity for an alternative to that makes so much more sense.
Yes. And we're seeing great success with that.
Yeah.
How often do the circles meet?
For my program, it's usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, evenings and afternoon. But because our community members and our volunteers are so important in the process, we really try to make it work for them. Yeah.
For my program, so say I get someone that's still incarcerated, maybe we'll go meet in the prison system, and then they get released. Then COSA is a year-long program for them, and we meet every week. So mine's a little bit more intensive,
Yes.
but it's also more personable too. So the volunteers develop relationships with this core member, and it just makes a world of difference for these people that are coming out, because they have absolutely nowhere to go a lot of the times.
That actually brings me to the next piece, which is housing is such an issue up here. Who is helping somebody get housing? Because if they've got nowhere to go, nowhere to live, then that's a setup for reoffending.
Yeah.
Big time.
Absolutely it is. We are thankful to have 2 transitional housing units up here.
Yeah.
But even that's still limited.
It's not enough.
We have multiple people on the waiting list.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, and we do have a position open, I believe, for the housing position. So someone who oversees that.
Right.
So yeah, it's a progress. It's a program that we're continuing to go down, and that we need
How
to
do
see
you
more
use
progress.
volunteers in your part of the program?
In my so within COSA, we have 3 to 4 volunteers coming in weekly, and we the meeting is centered around the core member. But everyone around the circle gets to have their time to talk and their perspectives to shine through, and that can really help the core member.
Sure, and their opportunity to be a part of a solution,
Exactly.
not to keep undermining a process,
Yep.
which is so important.
It is.
Do either of you get to work with families as well?
Yeah, in some of these cases, the people that are affected are their families.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
So we work with families, and a lot of the goals that are set by the community members that they want to have done are things like writing letters of apology, right? And many times that's to their own families.
Right.
To meet and talk with the family members that they've affected through the process of their crimes being committed, and acknowledge the repercussions for their families as well as themselves.
Yeah.
Specifically in mine, in my program, families are welcome to join in on COSA circles, and it can bring a new perspective from a family member that might not have said the things that they're going to say
Right.
in a more isolated situation, like a one-on-one with the person who's being released from prison, or their kid or whatever. So it can be a really good way to get that conversation started with the person being released, and it can help bridge and heal
Right.
relationships. And it's extremely important
Yeah.
for a lot of these people, because it
It
brings
is.
support systems back in their life when
And
it's been
reality.
stripped.
It brings reality back in.
It does, yes.
Yeah. Are you able to involve children?
In COSA,
Yeah.
no. The problem with that being is we work with a lot of people that might have sexual misconduct, or they're on the registry, the sex offender registry. So
Right.
it can be more violent crimes that we're focusing on, but COSA's again for a lot of different crimes and a lot of different
However,
people.
there are very often children in those families.
Yeah.
And it's another way of changing the dynamic. Maybe at some point that will be possible.
It could be. It would have to be, like specific
Absolutely.
and very nuanced towards the
Yeah.
core member.
Yeah.
Because we also need to protect people.
Absolutely.
We need to protect from further victimization, and we have that responsibility
Yes, you do.
in COSA and
Yeah,
our
you're
programs.
in a fairly tough position. I mean, you're trying to be all things to all people.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's not reality either, because nobody can be. What other programs are across the street right now?
A big one is diversion. So kind of similar to your program, diversion helps get people out of the criminal justice system with, you did this, you drove with a suspended license. Okay,
Right.
let's think of a way so that you don't have to go through this, the criminal justice system, and you can repair the harm that you've done and make amends with the community.
Yeah.
Because communities feel crime.
Yes.
As
And
a conglomerate.
it's true. And wouldn't it be really nice if we had public transportation so that people didn't have to drive on suspended licenses because they've got no other way of getting to work? Excuse my frustration here, but it just goes around and around.
It absolutely
Yes.
does, and that's the biggest issue in
Yeah,
Vermont.
I
is
know.
You need a car, and
Right.
I just see it constantly.
And if you can't pay your fine because you were caught speeding or whatever else, or you drove with a light bulb out, then you've started in another loop because you can't afford to get it fixed because you don't have a job and you can't get there. It just goes on and on.
And they know they're driving without a license,
Of
and they do
course.
it because they have to do it, not because they.
Yeah. And yet we're
Yeah.
treating it by punishment,
Yeah.
which is our problem. I mean, that's not very bright of us. We can see the difficulties, and yet we're asking people to function in a world that we know is dysfunctional.
Yeah. The way I like to think about it,
Yeah.
you know, specifically to how we view the prison system and how we view being productive in society.
Right.
When prison systems are the exact opposite
Exactly.
of being productive, because on average it's $100,000 for a year for an inmate.
Yes. And think how you could
Thousands.
use that money
Yeah.
constructively.
So it just proves all more importantly that the system and this program is working to reduce the taxpayers, you know,
Right.
obligation to the prison system when
Yes.
there's an alternative that helps heal the community from
Yes.
the crimes.
Yeah.
I mean, if 10 people didn't go to jail, that's $100,000. And think where that money could, or many $100,000,
Yeah.
think where that money could go constructively to change what would have got those people locked up in the first place.
Yeah.
You see, how do I pull my hair out? And
Yeah. Yeah, it's an issue, and it's a complex issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
How involved politically can you guys get? Because unless you're in a difficult position because you're being asked to be part of a system that makes no sense. And yet, at the same time, you're being asked not to change the system because stay with the status quo and everything will be perfect, which is impossible. So how do you handle that struggle for yourselves?
Yeah, it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that people at NEKCA are very community-minded, and especially here in the
Yes.
the Community Justice Center.
Yeah.
They're very community-minded, and despite their political affiliations, their hearts are really here in Newport and the surrounding area.
Yes.
And the great thing about this program is we're overseen by people who are willing to hear change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Within our program, there is, you know, a basis of what we do, but any new ideas on how we can work with people to really improve their situation and the outcome is heard really well by the people at the Justice Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully with a little more publicity and people in the greater community's awareness of what you're doing,
Yeah.
that can get some questioning, appropriate questioning,
Yeah.
like, you know, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
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 It's all about bridging
Yes, it
the
is.
gaps and joining in on the community and being a part of it. Whether you're, there's more that bridges us together than
Right.
divides us.
I agree.
And we need to make the connections and be a part of each other as a whole,
Yes.
as a community, to solve the issues, because they're not going to be solved
Yeah.
with complete division.
No. And
then-
we're currently living in a world that is operating on absolute polar opposites,
Yep.
which isn't real,
Yeah.
No.
but we're expected to buy into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
bringing our
manufactured.
community members in to these circles is a wonderful way to make that realization in our own community.
Right.
We're not separated. You know, we all live in the same area and use many of the same resources. And
We're
our
neighbors.
Yeah, we're affected by the same
Yeah.
the same weather, the same crime, right?
Yes.
We're affected by these things, and no matter what your background is, we at our program love to hear your voice, right? Because when someone is committing these offenses, they are your neighbors. They are the people that you see in the grocery store, and we would love you to weigh in on what's appropriate going
Yeah.
further for this situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And what could the person who's accused of whatever the offense is do with that energy in a way that's constructive as opposed to destructive?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a lot of options. I saw that NEKCA in the last couple of days just did a program that was very community inclusive. And I know that was a different part of NEKCA from
Yeah.
you. Is that also across the street?
It's not.
Okay, that's
You're talking
still-
about the youth center.
Yes.
Yeah, the youth center, I believe they're fondly calling it the Hive.
Yes.
We do not work on that team, but it will be behind the Seymour thrift store there. And we've heard big things are coming for Newport. Everyone's very excited for
Yeah.
opening a youth center and like serving that population. Yeah.
And they are also looking for volunteers, right?
Yeah, they are. They're looking for volunteers to come in and be with the youth during those after-school times, I believe. Yeah.
And how would somebody get involved as a volunteer there? Who would they contact?
Larissa?
Yes, Larissa.
Thank
The
you.
building that everybody in town knows as NEKCA's other building, which was the one next to the Hebert building.
Yes.
You're still keeping that and still using it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yep.
great
and
things
there
going
was
there
a
too.
food program there that
Yes.
had some event in the last couple of days as well.
Yeah, they
They're still
the
keeping
food
that
bank
going.
is
Yeah.
there, and so they serve a large amount of people with fresh produce and shelf-stable meals and foods that they need.
Right.
And so, of course, donating to your local food bank is
Really
always
important.
always important. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I know the Vermont Food Bank also contributes
They do.
to NEKCA's, yeah.
They do.
There's a lot of moving parts
Oh, yeah.
to keep this going.
There's a lot of programs within NEKCA.
Yeah.
All of them are great. And they
I
all
haven't counted them all, but
yeah,
there's
I know.
Yeah.
They're all in these flyers, and
Right.
most of them need people in them.
Yes.
Need volunteers in
And
them.
on the NEKCA website, there is a tab specifically for volunteers, and it outlines the volunteer positions that are available.
Yeah. And you still have the Head Start program,
Yes.
because that was also part of NEKCA, and then it wasn't, and then it was again.
It
Yep.
is.
It is.
It is.
Good.
It is.
Yep. And we'll
Yeah.
see.
That's a really important program here.
It sure
It
is.
is.
It sure is. It allows working parents to be able to keep their employment and know that their kids are safe and secure.
Right. I mean, like, again, back to COVID, so many of the programs had to stop, and then it was such a slow startup again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a
Childcare
challenge.
is so important.
Yes, it is.
It's really hard to sort of understand sometimes why, as a nation, we don't focus more on front loading as opposed to putting Band-Aids further down the road when if we provided services in the beginning, we could have done so much that would be preventative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I believe that NEKCA is a really good resource for some of those preventative services.
Yeah.
They do a wonderful job meeting community members' needs. If there's a family that's in crisis,
Yes.
there's so many programs that can support them. Please reach out.
Yes.
Please reach out if there is something that's affecting your family, because
Right.
we might have the resources, or we'll know where to get you the resources.
Right.
Yeah.
And someday that will be attached to housing and actually be able to come up with resources there. And I'm not blaming NEKCA for that in any way.
Yeah, I mean,
That is so frustrating for everybody.
I'd say the two biggest issues is transportation and housing.
Yes.
Absolutely the two biggest. And we're feeling that in Vermont statewide,
Yeah,
the
across the
housing
board.
crisis.
Yes. And transportation
Yeah,
statewide.
yeah.
I mean, some of the bigger towns like Burlington obviously have a transportation system, a bus system, but we don't.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen RCT provide more.
They're doing the best they can
Yeah,
with what
but
they've got.
it's not
It's not enough.
it's not enough, and
No.
it's not going to help everyone either because
No.
it's so rural here.
Yeah.
Yes.
RCT only goes from Newport to Derby Line,
Right.
but they have these shuttles that only do like rideshare vans that pick people up and go for medical appointments,
Right.
which is great, but it doesn't nearly
No.
fix the issue.
Not at all. And they can't even begin to coordinate people's work hours or appointment times. They do the best they can.
Yep.
But again, I mean, in theory, that should be a relatively simple fix. It's so much cheaper than running a prison. So
Yeah.
much cheaper.
Yep.
And so is providing good childcare.
Yes.
But instead we wait until the end of the line. And what we're talking about isn't a newsflash. It's certainly something that people have talked about for decades. So maybe now we really do have an opportunity to do something about it, particularly as there's all the craziness happening government-wise right now,
Yeah.
and nobody knows what plugs are going to get pulled, which must be a little scary for you guys.
Yes, it is scary for
Yeah.
a lot of people at NEKCA,
Yeah.
especially the Head Start program.
Yes.
That helps out so many families.
Yeah.
That's a huge piece on the chopping block. Luckily, our programs here at this place across the street,
You're okay.
We're
so
okay.
far.
We're okay because a lot of our funding comes from the state.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
we are
Yeah.
safe, but it's
I mean, Head Start is vital. So
is.
the idea of putting that on the chopping block is just plain ridiculous. But that's out of our control.
it is.
And I guess the solution is how we vote in the future, but that doesn't help now.
No, it doesn't.
And if that does happen, what we all as a group do about it.
Yeah. That's a big question. It is a big question.
Yes.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that are worried about what they're going to do as a family.
Of course.
And if they're going to be able to manage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the reality is people can't manage on one wage.
Yeah.
No. They haven't been able to for decades.
Right.
Yeah. And it's suddenly this new problem. It's been like this for a while now.
I know.
They just keep pushing back the issue and
Yeah. And
blaming, scapegoating.
Yes, exactly, which is so pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you really are in a position as an organization to be that rock
Yeah.
and to say, I mean, you can't say we'll fix it because you can't.
No.
But what you can say is we can provide that safe place to come and talk about this.
Yeah.
And let's look at how as a community we can pull things together.
Yeah.
You're actually in a
all about
really good
community.
position for that.
Yeah, yeah. It's very important. I believe the number in this area is NEKCA has 160 employees, right? So it's very important to keep the
Yes.
funding for those individuals that support the community members. It's integral. Yeah.
Yes.
It's very important.
It is. And it's not just about the job security of those working there, and I'm absolutely
Oh,
not
yes.
minimizing that. It's what
The people they
those
serve and the
jobs-
positions
yes,
that
exactly.
they serve. Yes.
because what happens if that support is moved
Yeah.
or moved any further because it's already been moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I would like to do, because we're sort of running out of time, is work out ways in which we as a studio can be more involved
Yeah.
with NEKCA, and including other programs in sort of a discussion like this.
Yeah.
But what else we as a studio can do
Yeah.
to look at some of your programs and participate. And I know that there's a lot of, moving parts for that you probably have to talk about at some much higher level.
Yeah, but we would love you to come to
Yeah.
the center, the Community Justice
Yeah.
Center, and see what we're doing there.
Yes.
Yeah, we would. We would also like you to talk to our volunteers that are wonderful, because it's not possible without them.
No, it
It's
isn't.
not possible without them, and maybe they have some great things to say so that can other people in the community can hear the importance of volunteering.
We're a small community up here, and a lot of us know each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, full disclosure here, I do know some of your volunteers. And some of them from before who are still involved in some ways. They do have a lot to say. They have some great suggestions, and they've hung in for a long time. So
Yeah.
obviously it's worthwhile.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sure is.
Which for volunteers is really important to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the insight on how it works and how
Yeah.
it's framed for the community.
Yes.
And it's really rewarding for them as individuals as well. They get a lot out of it.
It's really nice to see something be successful, because so often in life we don't see success. And certainly in your jobs, you see what happens in the immediacy, but you don't see the long term. So it's really nice to have that kind of ability to follow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're out of time for today, but I see this as a beginning.
Yeah.
And I really look forward to going further forward with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in.
Well,
All
thanks
that
for
way.
having us. Yeah.
We appreciate
back.
it. We sure do.
Great.